Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Erox and Shaman Rant podcast. Today on the show, we will be doing the second and last of the Survivor rewatches for this off season in our continuing coverage of the off season Survivor rewatch. We're talking Survivor China, and joining me is a very special guest. He is going to be the co-host for my season 46. It's Matt. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. As we said before, it's been a long time. Your Lions went on quite a ride since the last time you and I spoke.
Still
Um,
too soon. Still too soon.
but no, things are going good. Excited to talk about China. And excited to get into whatever Survivor 46, I think, is what's coming up next week, and
Yeah.
ready to get going.
Literally 6 days from now.
That's right.
That's just insane to think about. And what's even more insane to think about is how far ago this one was. I believe it was and I have the Wikipedia here because I had it at one point.
2007.
2007.
Yes.
So for our historians out there, or for those people wondering, I was in grade 7.
Okay. I was uh I was turning 29 in 2007. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of the time frame. Yeah, honestly, during this season, I got engaged. Because we got engaged in November of 2007, got married in 2008. So yes, and I've been married 15 plus years. So yeah, this is you're young.
Wow.
I'm not.
Yeah. I was just looking at something kind of interesting. This one filmed in between June and August, which is thought was interesting.
Well, I was gonna say we're probably looking at the same part of the Wikipedia page, but this was back when they would film, they wouldn't film back to back.
Yeah.
They would come home, do the season, and then like immediately after the season, or sometime during, Jeff would leave to go film. So yeah, so I mean
Yeah.
this it seems like the filming ended in August and they threw the season on like 6 weeks later.
Yeah. And what's interesting is something worth noting is as we know, Amanda from this season played back to back on Fans versus Favorites.
Right.
Versus Favorites finished filming on December 6th, 2007, and then the finale for China was December 16th. So the live reunion was 10 days after she just got back from Micronesia,
Interesting.
which is
Interesting. Yeah.
just insane.
So Jeff would go film the next episode or the next season during the current season.
Yeah, it seemed that way. That's
Huh.
that's that's crazy.
It's changed. It's definitely changed how they do things now, which I don't know which one I like better. I do kind of think that a little strange that the people that are coming up in this next season probably finished filming 8, 9 months ago already.
Yeah,
Um,
that's just
but yeah,
that's crazy. So,
so
what
China.
made you want to hop on this specific season of the rewatch?
Yeah, I think this one had a very interesting cast of characters, in many ways. I think it provided some of the I don't want to say all-time favorites, but some of the more popular characters that are still there today. I mean, you have James, maybe the first and only person to leave with two idols in his pocket. But he was just someone who was, a lovable, you know, character. Amanda has obviously gone on and become really popular in the series, and people love Courtney. I think Todd was a really good winner. Um, there were just some good characters with Frosty and Gene Robert and his poker strategy. We had a professional wrestler. May she rest in peace. I know Ashley is no longer with us. But it just had a lot of good characters. And people that you are still talk about, still attached to. I think Amanda, I think I read this last week or the week before where she played like 105 days before getting voted out.
Yeah.
Something like that. All right, because this one, just looking at it, this was a final three. So she never got voted out here. I think in the next season, she didn't get voted out
Nope. She got to
here.
the finals two of that season with
And,
Parvati.
and then when she came back the third time is when I think she finally got voted out
Yep.
towards the very end.
She was voted off at final, I want to say 9. Yeah, final 9, right during the Ru the hero 5-4 numbers advantage where Sandra might flip and then Candace flipped, and it was just a whole big thing. And that's one of the seasons I was gonna to cover during these 4 month or during these 2 month break, but we quickly realized that since the turnaround for 45 and 46 is only 2 months, it only makes sense to only do 2 seasons rather than
Yeah.
4 seasons.
And now that I'm looking at fans versus or Micronesia fans
Mm-hmm.
versus favorites, James was on that one too.
Yep.
So he turned around and went straight back.
Yep. And then they had a puffy finger and got medevaced
Yeah. Yep. I remember that.
because that season had like 3 medevacs. But we're not
Yes.
here to talk about that season. We're here to
But
talk
we'll
about this
talk about
season.
that another day.
Yeah, that's a podcast for another day. So I have notes, and a lot of these notes, some of these notes might be like about a month old, so I don't know how much because I literally just watched the finale yesterday, and like some of these
Okay.
were like from like a few months ago because I spaced it out. So we have the rewatch. The very first thing I noticed, and Jeff Probst is melodramatic, saying that they are literally going back in time when they head to China or to the thing. Bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean that was still the phase of Survivor when they were playing up to the location and playing up to the theme. So I could see, I didn't catch that, but I could see Jeff taking that approach and really trying to bring in the viewer right away with that drama.
He said it like 6 times in like throughout the entire season, including the season finale, like right off the bat. He said it. I'm like, that's a bit of a stretch. One of the things too was that this 2007 was definitely seemed like it might have been a different time because instead of the way they introduced Todd, instead of calling him just a flight attendant, they said a gay Mormon flight attendant from Utah. Can you not just say flight attendant?
I caught that as well. Definitely a different time in society where you say that now and you're in trouble. Um, but yeah, that is very interesting that, now that I'm thinking about that's how they introduce, like you're right, just a flight attendant. What is his sexuality and or his religion really have to do with it? But I think maybe in that period, and I'm trying to think back to the other seasons around it, um, how they were approaching kind of character development, if if that told the story of who they were. But yeah, that was very strange.
It was. It was probably one of the stranger things that they did like the stranger things that happened well, there's more controversial stuff that we'll get to towards the end, I'm sure, but what blew my mind was just yeah, it was just the fact that they even said that like on television. Like that's
2007 was a long was a long time ago.
clearly a different time. Courtney, we have to talk a little bit about Courtney being just the funniest person. Now, to be fair, I don't know why I wrote Courtney is hilarious, but I'm sure there had to have been a reason because let's face it, she's hilarious.
She is. She is.
She might have made a comment, I don't know.
Well, I think with her, and I feel like she's one either you love or you hate. Um, she was one where she wasn't, I feel like she wasn't necessarily trying to be funny. That was more like just who she was and how she was. And like you said, it just comes off as her being hilarious.
She was fun
Even
loving.
even to this day.
Yeah, even on the rewatch, like I still I'm like I don't take anything she said or anything she did personally because she made one of those comments about Denise being like I don't jump ahead a little, but she made the comment like I don't want to award this the jury shouldn't award her this because she sucks at life comment and Jeff's like that was a terrible comment. She's like, yeah, I know. I apologized already, Jeff, in the reunion. And I just thought it's like you can't take her seriously.
No, and God, even those comments, it was just like no comments like that are coming in Survivor now. It was
No.
just such a and these were the seasons where, as I was kind of doing the research for this, like this is when 30,000 people were applying to be on Survivor. And as I'm looking here, they cut it down to 800, then to 48, and then the six. So this was still at a time where they weren't they it was still true. It was turning your casting tape, get out there. They weren't out looking for good looking people, and they so it just yeah, it was crazy. Just
Yeah. It was back when, yeah, I think they nowadays you just submit an audition tape online and fill out application online. Before you had to like make an audition tape and
right,
send
mail
it,
it in.
mail it in. Fun fact, I did try to apply at that time between 2007 2008. I did try, but
Okay.
my grade 8 science teacher threw away the application because I tried to print it on his computer printer and he had to go get it. And then he's like, no, trash. Bye bye. Don't get to print that off
One of
because
my
ink was
roommates in
expensive.
college applied between so that would have been between season 2 and season 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I was a senior in college for season 2. Was the end of college was season 2.
I don't want to make you feel old, but I was only like 7 or 8 at that point.
Yeah, no, I trust me. I know how much older I am than you.
Okay.
Um,
Um, then we go into one of the classicer bits, which was Jean Robert clocking Todd. He's like, I'm on to you. You're the schemer. You're gonna be the guy. And I love that. Like that was just good. Because he was right.
yeah, no, he was spot on and he was really good at reading people, sorta. I mean, he didn't really use that to his advantage as good as I thought he could. But yeah, he picked up on that fairly quickly. That Todd was one you had to kind of keep your eye on, and he was a schemer. And like you said, he was right.
Yep. He absolutely was right.
Spot on.
This Jean Hu tribe at the beginning of this game was just a mess. Like they were constantly fighting, bickering, like they were just terrible.
Yeah, they weren't really good.
No.
They definitely weren't great. Yeah, they weren't great. They couldn't, Ashley again, as may she rest in peace. Um, she struggled a little bit out there,
She did.
mentally.
Yeah.
Um, and when someone's kind of going through what, she was going through, and I mean this just in such a sincere way that it can kind of rub off on people, and it just, and that was part of it. And, Steve, eh, that's what I say about Steve, and they just struggled as a tribe, and really can never just never get it together.
Mm.
But you're right, they were a quite a hot mess.
About Steve, aka Chicken, I have one thing to say. Damn. Because that was the iconic thing of the first episode where he just said, damn. Like,
Yeah, that was pretty much it for him,
basically.
you know. Um, because I mean, they lost three straight challenges because they
Yeah.
lost that first one and then they lost the two in the next one.
Yeah.
Um, and then, that was, and I remember back to when I watched this originally, um, I always started to think, okay, are they kind of building challenges so a tribe doesn't get decimated? Or
Yeah.
maybe that third one, did they build it for them so they, kind of level out the game, because then they went on to lose another three in a row. So they lost six of the first eight,
Yeah.
but
One of
very
which they threw, which we'll get to.
right, which was not a good idea, but
It's never a good idea.
ever. Yeah,
Around, I think it was around episode 2 is when we start to see the beginnings of what turns out to be this season's more iconic duo, being Amanda and Todd. They start to finally like link as a duo, and I thought they were a great duo, I feel.
yeah. I mean, Amanda's a really good player at this.
Yes.
She's like, she's outgoing. People like her. She's got a good head on her shoulders. Um, so she was always able to build that relationship and other, um and what you got to remember too is they also brought in, I think it was Aaron, to basically
Yeah.
be the shield,
Yep.
which was just smart of
Genius
them.
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. Where they were able to, because this was still in the part of Survivor where people, yeah, there were strategies out there, but it was still in the feeling out phases of it.
Mm.
Um, so they did a really nice job of building that bond between them two, and then figuring out, all right, let's bring in somebody else who just everyone can throw darts at.
Yeah. And that was back when they knew it potentially could be a final three. Like I know they had like they were toying with the final three and final twos and
Do
that
they
see
tell them what it was going to be ahead of time?
I think it's just guesswork.
Yeah,
Because you go into day 37 with 4 people, you assume that it's going to be a final two then. But also, I think the numbers when they get to jury is also a way to kind of tell.
right.
Because
Because
if
now I'm
it's
looking back, the season before had a final three.
the 2 seasons before, it was Cook Islands and Fiji both had final threes.
Okay.
Cook Islands was when they introduced the final three.
And it's been final three ever since.
Uh, Fans versus favorites was final two, and then
God,
the rest have been final three ever since.
I hate final
Except
three.
for Kagian.
Right.
That was the one thing, and then the rest have just been final three. And I'm
Right.
mixed. I like final threes or final twos. I don't really care as long as, like I said, as long as it's evenly matched. But some of them, they're never usually evenly matched. Final threes are
It's
never in a scenario where that could happen. Three-way
no.
tie.
Yeah. no, it becomes challenging, but yeah, they did a good job of forming that alliance, sticking to it, um, and I mean, riding it all the way to the end.
Yeah. And well, mostly all the way to the end. There was a little hiccup in there with Aaron, which we'll get to. One of the things I put here is the idol is in plain sight. Like they have the hidden immunity idols, and it's like it's the plaque on the thing.
Yeah.
Going into this, do you not like? I guess idols were still so uncommon that they didn't think that they would just be in plain sight, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's hard to really look back on it now that we've seen so much since. But I think
Yeah.
that was still at the stage of the game where, idols weren't as popular as they are now in terms of numbers, a number of idols, and they had been
Mhm.
hidden. So I think was that the first time they threw in the one in plain sight? Um,
Yeah,
to
I
kind
believe so.
so,
Yeah.
and I just don't think any of them ever really would have thought because of how it was arranged that that would be an idol. But yeah, it was just sitting there for the world
Yeah.
to see.
And no, yeah, I don't think any one of them. They just think it's part of the artwork on the
Right.
the thing for their camp, the Chinese artwork. Like they're not thinking, "Hey, this is an idol." Like it you got to be like clairvoyant and think like, let me check this to see if it says congratulations, you found a hidden immunity idol.
Right.
Like ding, got it.
Right.
But it was interesting. One of the funnier things was they had this challenge where they were on the. Oh, this was when John Who won their first reward challenge, and they were doing this weird like gangplank thing where they had to push everybody off, and Dave decides to get naked. Dave,
I, I, I got nothing for that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure why he felt
it
like
didn't
that was
help.
the way to go.
Yeah, it.
Um,
He said in the reunion that it was just so because he thought maybe nobody would want to go after him because he was naked, but it's like
they just
no.
didn't care. Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I see where he's coming from.
yeah,
I mean, like, oh, if I do this, no one's gonna want to touch me or do this or do that. But
yeah. But
no one
no,
seemed to
Jane.
care.
It was interesting because that reward it was best first to five, and I remember it's very vividly. Actually, it was the Jean Hu women won the reward for the Jean Hu tribe because the men but lost both their points,
Yep.
and the women got all three of their points. So they had Jean Hu had the tougher women, which is one of my notes. But it was just and I was like, well, that's crazy to me.
Right. And that was the reward challenge where they kidnap somebody.
Yeah, well, they always had to. Well, yeah, they were getting to the point where they had to kidnap people, and
Right.
John Who kidnapped, or sorry, Fei Long kidnapped Jamie, and then these guys kidnapped Leslie, which led to Leslie's elimination.
Yeah, to her demise.
It- yep.
Well, and I feel like in that episode too, and I watched these a while ago too, so and we talked about how old I am, so the memory
Yeah.
fades. But I think that was when I think it was Jamie started to suspect that the idol was out in the open,
Yeah.
but had no idea where it was, but that it was
Mhm.
somewhere like it wasn't hidden at that point.
Yeah. One of the clues actually said like spend no more time searching the ground, like look up because it
Yeah,
was up in the
right.
thing. It was, and that's as vague as Boston Rob's idol in 22, where it's like it could be either in the ground, up in a tree, or like digging or jumping on stuff. It's like who comes up with these clues? Like these clues are not
Yeah,
helpful. I mean,
Probst
it's a
does.
second clue, but it's not supposed to be helpful.
Right.
The only other clue that's supposed to be helpful is the last one, because then it basically tells you this is the idol.
Yeah, here it is.
Yes. Um, yeah. So Courtney was really bad at one of these challenges where they had to like chop a rope, and she took like 40 minutes to chop a rope, but they still almost won,
Right.
which I thought was just hilarious, like hilarious because she got through it finally. And then they did their slow motion, like freeze frame of them chopping the rope, which I thought was just ridiculous.
Well, that was again, that was your television production. That's how they did these things in 2007.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was the
exactly.
dramatic slow motion Baywatch run.
Yeah. So I'm going through my notes to see, like, because, like I said, some of these notes, like I said, I don't remember why I wrote half of these because some of them are like moldy rice gate because I guess one of the tribes had moldy rice at one point. JR versus Courtney, which was arguably one of the best rivalries of the season
Yes, it sure was.
because these two did not like each other.
No, and you don't get rivalries like that anymore.
You really
For
don't.
not yeah, no, you don't get those anymore.
And I'd like to think that they're friends or friendly now, Courtney and JR, I'm assuming.
I'm gonna guess they probably haven't talked to each other in a decade. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, they're, yeah,
that would
you
just be
call,
my guess. I mean, I'm sure if
yeah,
they see each other, they're cordial, but they're not
yeah,
on each other's Christmas lists.
probably. I mean, hard to say. Um, I also found that one of the players I didn't like on John Who was Sharia. She was a nightmare to deal with because she was trying to keep Dave from getting some shells that he was saving in one of
Yeah,
the things. I'm like, what are you doing, girl?
yeah, she was she was funny, she was difficult. And I think at that point too, being out in, I was gonna say the jungle almost, but being out in China, started to take a toll on her. And, I mean, she was there before that nonsense went down. I mean, remember, that was like 15 days, 16 days of that. That's half the new over half the new
Yeah,
season. This was like we're just getting warmed up on these old
yeah,
seasons. But that's a long time, and you start to kind of lose it. And for whatever reason, him collecting and keeping those shells bothered her. Um, and she just lost it.
yeah. It it was nuts, and they had their nighttime reward, and it led to them kidnapping Dave. Fei Long ends up kidnapping Dave, and Dave goes up to Todd. Do you believe in turnabout's fair play? And still to this day, I have no idea what the hell he means.
I don't know if he does.
Thank you. That doesn't make it. That doesn't mean any, like that means literally nothing to me. And I was
Right.
actually going to start this podcast by asking you that. Do you believe in turnabout's fair play? And it's like and I think it's the same thing with you with the what does swearing on the loved one mean? Like it, it what does that even mean?
I,
It was weird.
it I, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. I don't know what he meant. I'm not sure what he was doing, but that was the avenue he took. Very, very unique one.
He later gets voted off in a 5-1 vote, but something worth noting here is so this was around episode 4, day 12. This is when they give the first Denise confessional of the season.
Hmm.
Like I had never seen a Denise confessional before this. So like it was just they did not do a fair way. Like I mean, they didn't do like a even distributing of confessionals as they do nowadays, or as they try to, anyways. I should
Right.
say.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely production has definitely changed in the getting to know everybody. Where again, and again, we're making ourselves sound so old saying back in this day, but they didn't give equal time to everybody. They didn't focus on, hey, we're really going to develop every character. I mean, they had this, I mean, I guess this season was what, 15?
Hmm.
So they were kind of getting their groove, but it was still early-ish in the franchise. And, they were only what, 6, 7 years into it, or this was year 8,
Yeah.
uh, starting to make some of the changes that they made. Um, but yeah, I mean, there were people that you just wouldn't see at all. You'd
Yeah.
be like, you'd get to day, episode 4 and be like, who's this?
Yeah. If I didn't like, if I hadn't watched, like, if this was my very first watch of the season, I'd be like, who's Denise?
Right.
Like,
Right. At that time they had 44 minutes to get through the whole show,
yep.
and that was when they were still doing immunity and reward challenges.
Yep.
So you had 2 challenges per episode. Um, and yeah, so there were just unfortunately some people who you just didn't see a lot of. And it's easy to turnabout. Oh, I almost said turnabout's fair play, but hindsight, with Denise getting as far as she did, they had time to develop her
Yeah.
and not didn't have to feel the need to, and especially with like Ashley in her situation and
Yeah.
getting some of that tribe being kind of a mess, they
Yeah.
need to develop. But yeah, I mean, you didn't see much of her for a while.
Yeah, and I think that's also a good point too, with like, if your tribe's winning immunities, they really don't have a reason to show everything that's going on with your tribe because you're safe. Like, what do you guys have to, they
I
don't
mean,
go
they
to the,
wouldn't in
yeah.
those early seasons, they just wouldn't.
No. No, yeah, you wouldn't see them.
Right.
One of the things that this season also gave us was, and I got them these guys are weird, is they gave us a marriage in Jamie and Eric. They are still married to this day, I believe. So,
Yeah.
and they're weird. Like, I thought this was a weird pairing.
Um, it was it was a unique couple. Um, I'm just looking on to see if they're still married to this day.
I think they
Uh,
are because I think they had like three
yeah,
kids or
no, they
something.
still are. Sure, they sure are. Um, yeah, it was just kind of like an odd couple.
Yeah.
Um, but like when you look at pictures of them now, it looks fairly normal.
Yeah. No,
Um,
no, I just thought it was worth noting that it was a little peculiar, but not as
was this the
peculiar.
first Survivor couple?
No, I believe Jenna and Ethan were the first, but like, oh,
Yes.
like from their seasons. But even then, they both played All Stars. So,
Yes.
but
Okay, yeah, that's
and
right.
oh, and we missed completely missed Boston Rob and Amber.
Oh, yeah, I see. I just can't keep track of when each season was.
Yeah,
So I forgot that All Stars would have been before this one. Um, yeah, they ran on All Stars pretty quick. That's a conversation for another time. But
yeah.
no, yeah, it was just an interesting couple out there. Well, I guess they weren't even really a couple out there.
No, they were
Um,
just two people playing the game
right.
that eventually then dated
Became
after
a
the show
couple.
and
Yeah.
became a couple. But it wasn't as this coupling wasn't as weird as Jeff in the at the reunion show asking Eric if he's still a virgin.
Good old Jeff.
Ugh.
Good
we'll
old
we'll
Jeff.
get to some of the other cringier moments of this reunion show as we kind of move on. But there was a moment here, like this was they show the coupling them, but then they get to the twist of the game. So they get given a note where they get to pick two people from each tribe to swap.
Yep.
And Jean Hu is thinking when they get this note that they're gonna swap numbers. And so that they're going to have 6 and they're going to have 4 and the other
Right.
tribe's going to have 4. And they're like, this is perfect. We can just throw these challenges and vote these two people off. Like, this is great. They didn't think that Fei Long was going to get to pick 2.
Yeah, that was always very odd. I don't know why they didn't think it was just why they thought it would just be them picking two. Um, but I guess we now figured out why they were losing, why they weren't the strong tribe.
Yep.
Um, that's all I could say about that.
The five notes with this, because there's a total of five notes dedicated to this, is Jean Hu was dumb. Y'all are idiots. Wake up, people, because it's like, well, why you guys think it? It goes into the next page. Well, duh, because they get the note and they realize, like, oh, I guess this wasn't the end of the twist.
Right.
They got to pick two people, and they picked Frosty and me, and it's like, or Sharia and I, and I'm like, yes, Frosty. Obviously, there it wasn't going to be like a switcheroo
Right.
to give you
Like
guys some advantage.
I don't understand why they thought it would be that way. Um, but again, that's why they were down 6-4.
Yeah, no kidding. Um, and I got here they aren't dead because they were basically all crying like, "Oh, this is so sad. Like goodbye." Like these like tearful goodbyes. I'm like, they're not going off to die.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was always I still find that to be very strange, like you said. Um, they were still, voila, they were still alive. Um, but yeah, just fascinating stuff.
Poor Aaron got screwed because he was in the best spot and then he gets swapped and he's swap screwed. This is the second time on the rewatch that we've talked about someone getting swap screwed because I did a rewatch of Africa a month ago with Kayla and we talked about Silas getting swap screwed. And here's another guy getting swap screwed.
Somebody always does. At least, or maybe not as much anymore. But again, early seasons, the swaps, someone always got like the short end of the stick and was immediately out. And I remember watching these, earlier in 3, 4, 5s when they would switch. I'm like, oh, that sucks for this person's game. They were rolling along so nicely. Tribe swap and goodbye.
Yeah. It and the only time for like the newer I can think of is Brando getting swap screwed because I think he probably wouldn't have went home if his tribe ever lost. But his tribe was
Oh,
the
right,
winning tribe, so
right.
but that's the only instance I can think of. But it leads into PG and Jamie's brilliant plan to throw the next two challenges and punt James and Aaron. And they didn't even try to make this look like not obvious. Like at one point Jamie like tosses a piece like off to the hemisphere. Like almost at Jeff Probst it feels like.
Throwing challenges never works out as expected.
It really doesn't.
Oftentimes, and it kind of did in this situation, kind of didn't, but oftentimes the people who want to throw the challenge end up paying the ultimate consequence.
Yeah,
I thought I always liked Fiji. I
I
always
did.
thought she was a pretty intelligent player. Um, that thought process was not one of the strong and strategic moves, but it didn't really bite her as much as it did. I mean, Jamie ended up going earlier. It just didn't work out. Just not a good decision by any means.
Yeah, it was not a it like I said, it was not a good decision. And I got here, how did you not know? Because I know James and Aaron were trying to figure out how they lost this challenge. It's like, how did you guys not know that they threw it? Like it looked so obvious,
I
even
mean,
from
probably
where
when
we
you're
were
just there in the
standing.
heat of the moment, you don't figure
Yeah.
it out. But when the with the at the ease of editing and us seeing it, um, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. And then we go into a reward challenge that's basically just one big ad for Charmin.
The old days of product placement and
Oh,
the Outback Steakhouse stuff.
oh dear
Um,
God.
yeah, those.
Africa had Reebok, Mountain Dew, and
Yeah,
like the and then the car giving away a car, which is just also I think this and I don't remember seeing a car reward on this season, so I think they stopped giving car rewards out at that point.
yeah. I mean, that when if you're going back to then, that was I mean, that's 40 million people a week watching Survivor. Companies couldn't get their product in quick
Hmm.
enough.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no, 14 was I think the last time they did the car reward because that was when Dreams did his little
Oh, his
screwy
little, I
Yao Man
promise
deal.
I'll do this, I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah. So basically, but it's like now you have to win immunity because then this starts the master plan of Todd. And this is where Todd really gets like starts getting the mastermind edit a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Where
in this episode too is where you really started to see Eric and Jamie starting to
yeah,
pair
get a
up a
little
little.
closer, yeah. Yeah, and so this starts the master plan where Todd's like, James, we're kidnapping you, give me the clue. And he gets the clue and he finds the idol. And in one of the most impatient idol finds I've ever seen in my life, where he's trying to get it down, and then Frosty comes, and then he's standing on the thing, and they're trying to like prop the idol. He's trying to get it without Frosty seeing. It's like, why can't you just wait for Frosty to come down and then get it later?
Right.
Like, I don't know how much time there was between then and when they had the immunity challenge, but maybe they were on a time crunch. I don't know.
There had to be enough time.
There had to
You
have been,
know,
right?
I mean, yes, there had to be.
But it leads into my dang it, Frosty, because Frosty then is there and he's like, and Todd's famous line, if I can't trust you right now, I will kill you.
And
Only in
voila.
2007.
Yeah. I mean,
Only
just,
go on
yeah.
Survivor now and say a line like that. You'll get kicked off.
Oh, yeah, they definitely wouldn't let you do that.
No, for sure. But it was almost the perfect plan. There was one flaw in this plan. This little baby chicken decides to basically not be hard to eat, and Denise couldn't eat it. Could you eat a balut, do you think? A little baby chicken?
No.
Yeah, no, me neither, actually.
No. I mean, I like to say I could, but no. I mean, you're basically eating like a formed chicken.
Yeah. I would just assume it's chicken and just start chowing down, but then again, I'm also crazy, so.
But then, like, if I recall that one, you were also eating turtles with shells. Um, I mean, there was some nasty stuff you were eating.
Yeah. It
Like,
was
I don't know if
it
I could do that. Like, I don't know if that would be something I could
yeah.
do.
I don't know, but it ends up being like I said, it ends up foiling the plan, but it doesn't really foil the plan for James because now James is going into the merge with two idols,
Right.
which will get to the insanity of James like just having. First of all, we'll get to the insane like why isn't he giving one back to Todd is the biggest question I think on everyone's mind. It's like Todd helped you find this, like you're not gonna give him one,
Yeah.
but so yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I
Okay,
have no thought.
you were I thought you were
I was in
pondering and
deep
like
thought, but I had no thought.
you were in deep thought, but you had no thought. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of love it, I love James. James just has some of the, and I don't remember like what one liner he used has here for this one, but it was just he had some one liners that were just hilarious. Like James was really just the best character.
Well, yeah, and I feel like he was genuine. Again, that was the era where people really came from totally different walks of life.
Yeah,
Because if I recall, James was a gravedigger.
correct.
Um, and how often does a gravedigger interact with a gay Mormon flight attendant? And
Never.
right, never. And it's just very much people were so different and had a truly merge who they were, what their walk of life was. And James, just kind of being I always um and this might sound bad, but he always reminded me of Michael Clark Duncan in A Green Mile, just this big, lovable teddy bear. Now, obviously, Michael Clark Duncan was in jail in that movie, and James wasn't. Um, but they were always just like a big, like someone that a bigger fellow with a teddy bear personality.
Hmm.
Never
Never
seen the
seen that
Green
movie.
Mile. Never
No,
seen the
never
Green
seen that
Mile.
movie. That reference went whoop.
You should check it out sometime. Good movie.
I'll put it on the list.
Tom Hanks.
I'll put it on the list of movies to watch when I do my YouTube show, 10-minute movie reviews. Go check that out when it comes out over on the King Fricka Fresh YouTube page, where we just finished our Survivor What Ifs for season 1 through 8.
I
Just gotta get that plug in.
do it. Keep plugging.
Gotta get the plugs in.
Plug
So
away, my friend.
we're we're at the merge here, and they merge them like right at kind of at the immunity challenge, or what was going to be the immunity challenge, but
Right.
then they give them a feast where they give them like Chinese culture stuff, and they had to pay attention to what the was going on. And I like to point out I got 3 out of the 4 questions correct.
Good work.
So I was paying attention. Not really. I think it was muscle memory too. But before that, there was a fake idol discovery where Jamie finds the plaque or Eric finds the plaque on the ground, and they're thinking, well, this looks kind of idol like.
Yeah.
And then they look through James' bag, which is insane to me that people still look through people's bags on Survivor.
We've had that conversation before, so we don't
We've
need to beat that dead horse.
Yes, we definitely do not need to beat that dead horse. We've had that conversation numerous times here on this podcast. But it later leads into like Frosty winning immunity, and then John Robert decides he's going to threaten Todd. Now, if you vote me out, I'm going to hold you responsible, and you will not win the $1 million. And he says the same thing to Amanda, which I just thought was hilarious. And we'll get to why that's even more funny as we dive into the finale. But
Because he voted for Todd.
because he voted for Todd, because he gave Todd the $1 million.
Yeah.
And then we get Jamie's fake idol play, where she stands up, plays her idol. And this is one of the first times I think that there was a fake idol that got played.
Yeah. I was trying to think back to that too, if that was one of the first. I don't know if it was the first, but it was in a single hand of fake idols being played.
Yeah, it was more prominent well, 16 had the more prominent one with the
Yeah.
stick. But I know Yowman did make a fake idol,
Right.
but I guess it was never found. But it was just interesting. I do love that the intro changed to kind of thing, because in this one they had where the intro kind of changed to where it was they said it's the merge, they put the merge tribe name in the merge tribe. and they cut down like who got voted off. That was
Right.
interesting. It's something I'll have to throw back in someone's face when they complain about me saying, well, why they still put all the people on the intro, as if I'm complaining that they're putting all the people on the intro. That was an old argument from 45.
Yeah, you got into a handful of those.
Oh, quite more than a handful. More
Yep.
than a handful, my friend. Wait. But yeah. So one of the notes here was JR was clueless because he didn't even realize that there was an idol.
Yep.
And then he starts grabbing all the plaques in the middle of the night.
Yep.
Takes every single plaque.
And right. They were just grabbing everything. And Courtney was pushing hard to get Jean Robert out. You know, their rivalry was still quite
Yeah.
quite fresh.
And speaking of Courtney, Courtney wins her immunity challenge in this episode where she's just basically just sitting on a log or on like a weird like dragon thingy and has her kind of quote, "Well, I am lazy,"
That
because
was a great that was yeah, that was a great quote for her. Um yeah, she was just so small and so um skinny that it was just very easy for her to sit there.
yeah. And so she wins. JR gets voted out, and I got here. Amanda Todd is right because I know Todd was trying to convince Amanda to vote Todd, and Amanda or JR, and Amanda's like, "Well, I don't know if I want to do that." And then, but it's like, no, Todd's right. You guys need to take John Robert out of this game at some point, or maybe he was trying to get rid of James. I don't know. Like I said,
No,
these
they were
notes are
still
all
going
old.
after John Robert at this point.
Yeah,
Um I mean Todd they were yeah, I mean I think once John Robert knew he was screwed, he tried to switch it on James. Um and that's kind of when they brought in Courtney to their alliance as well.
yeah,
And then the three of them kind of rode it all the way home.
yeah. That was the formation of the trio, and one of the like I said, it was interesting. And then so JR ends up getting voted off, and then they have their reward challenge that James and PG just start going at it and fighting constantly, where they had to like bounce a ball, and James is just smacking it like up in 50 feet up in the air, which I thought was
Yeah,
just hilarious.
yeah, because they had to bounce him on those drums.
Yeah,
Uh,
and pass them back and forth.
yeah, that was
And the other team had a rhythm, and they didn't.
yeah, no, that was a mess. That was quite the mess for them. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it definitely, like I said, yeah, it was definitely one of the weird moments. And then I got some of y'all just ate because this was weird. Okay, so this was the weirdest. So they had an immunity challenge where they had to like it was a memory thing where they had to like stab. Jeff showed them certain things and they had to stab the things. And what I thought was weird about it was they had if you don't want to play, you can eat
right.
option. That's usually safe for endurance.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just kind of tried to mix it up there for them a little bit. Um, trying to keep people off guard.
Yeah. And what was weird was I said like some of y'all just ate because Amanda and Courtney or yeah, Amanda and Courtney had just ate on that reward like a day ago, and then now they're sitting out of the challenge to eat burgers.
Right. They just, I mean, well, James, because he had two idols, so he didn't care.
True.
Uh, and I think at that, if I remember correctly, Courtney at that point was down to like 90 pounds. I mean, she was super skinny. It's
Yeah.
still a skinny anyway, so she was just
Mhm.
trying to get food in her.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was an interesting
Yeah.
approach right there.
And it ultimately leads to poor Frosty because Frosty loses immunity and then gets voted off promptly. And tough break for little Frosty there.
It happens, yeah. He was so close. He made the final two of the challenge and then got just booted immediately.
Yeah. And then this was another like weird thing because they have they're usually Survivor was doing recap episodes back in this day, but they
Because
have
I think it was Thanksgiving.
oh,
When it used to be on Thursdays, that Thursday was always Thanksgiving.
right. Okay, that makes sense now because I was like late recap super late I got there. Like, oy, that makes more sense.
I'm just looking at the
Yeah.
2000 calendar.
We look at calendars here on this podcast.
Yeah, so that oh this oh yeah. Oh no, why am I looking up 2002? This was 2007. I'm like, that's not the right day. And then I'm looking at why does it say 2002? So yeah, so in 2000, yeah, that was Thanksgiving. The 22nd when that episode aired was Thanksgiving.
Makes sense. Now it all adds up. I mean,
Yeah.
am I gonna in my head when I'm watching and I didn't watch the recap episode because I don't, because it's like there's no point in watching a recap episode if you're
No.
binging it.
No, and it's all like new stuff,
That's not really new stuff.
unseen footage, whatever they call it.
Ugh. But yeah, it was just kind of a like kind of a weird time, but now I get it. Now I understand. Now I understand.
Yeah.
Um, and then got here, it's a reward challenge. He dismissed the jury because they have a nighttime reward challenge, and these people are freaking out because Jeff's like, "Oh, we're not done yet," and it's like, "Come on, guys, it's a reward challenge.
Yeah.
Like, you have to think it's a reward challenge." And this is where Amanda starts coming into her own a little bit because Amanda has the foresight and thought to let's vote off James here, which I thought was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, she obviously knew he had the idols.
Yeah,
At that point, as they start to dwindle down, you start worrying about um him being a physical presence and him just running the table and physicality. Um, so yeah, Amanda really got that in motion.
yeah, she did. And I find it so bizarre because the guy had two idols. It's final seven. He doesn't have immunity. He has only two opportunities to play it. What was his plan here? Survive final seven, then play his idols to four, and then cruise right on into the.
Honestly, I don't even think he had a plan, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't think he ever thought okay about strategically when to use these.
I think that's the kicker here. I think James just wasn't a strategic thinker at all.
No, and I think he got better in the next season.
Yeah.
Um, but this being the first season and taking it all in and him being a major physical presence, I just don't
Mhm.
think he had any type of I don't want to say he didn't have a strategy, but that didn't cross his mind
Yeah.
of something to do or he needed to be prepared for it.
Yeah. Definitely didn't cross his mind. And poor PG is behind the eight ball because PG is thinking it's her. And then she finds the idols in the bag and then goes to Amanda. And Amanda basically like spells it out for her, like, hey, don't say anything.
Right. Just don't do anything.
Yeah, don't do it.
Just sit there and do nothing.
And she's like, well, I can't. It's like, no, listen to me. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Read between the lines, man.
Yeah.
That's literally what I thought she was going to say is, can't you read between the lines?
And
Which,
then we get in as James goes, the next episode or the next reward challenge brings out the loved ones.
oh,
Um, you know,
barf.
yeah, that
I have
that
a
not
that's one of my notes for barf. I got also here though, back to the other episodes, like I said, you got to tip him off, like, or tip him off, because PG could have tipped him off, had Eric and her vote Todd. James plays his idol, and then Todd goes home. And then this game looks completely different.
That sounds like a teaser for your next what would really happen in Survivor if something went different, whatever you name that
Yeah.
series.
The Survivor What If, yeah. That
Yeah,
definitely when we get to season 15, which we'll get to in season 2, I'm sure we'll see what could have been.
that will definitely be a subject point.
I do, like I said, I do love James. Um, what was interesting was there was no new idols planted after James left with 2 idols.
No, they didn't do that in those seasons.
Good. I like
Right.
that.
Once idols were played or gone, that was it. Instead of this nonsense that we're giving everybody a participation trophy every time somebody goes home. I mean, it's absurd.
For sure. One of the more iconic lines, because I guess they thought James had a temper or James was crazy, because they said beginning of the episode after James gets voted off, it's like we'd all be dead if James played his idol. Like he probably would have came back to camp and murdered us all. That's
Yeah,
a
I mean, again, maybe a
different,
little bit 2007 stereotyping.
just a little.
Um,
Um, and so we go into, like I said, we go into the family visit, which was barf. Um, And then at least it was short though, I put, because they had their family visit where the families came and it wasn't like a 15, 20-minute thing. Like it
yeah,
was like a brief, like 30-second, 10 to 15 to 30-second thing where they just hugged and went by.
right,
But it, yeah, so then we get the obligatory Sprint ad where you go on reward and you get to get a call on this Sprint phone.
right. Yeah, good old product placement.
And Courtney gets one of her best lines where she says to Jeff, "Oh, stuff it, Prost." She's sassy to him.
Very much so. Very much so. That's what makes it, though. That's what made the game.
Yeah. And and then we get PG being bitter because PG took Denise on this reward to the Shaolin Temple, and then she doesn't take her on the family reward,
Yep.
which was just hilarious. And something I also was worth noting is Denise's husband was afraid to fly, apparently.
Oh,
She had mentioned that, and I was like, he's afraid to fly? Okay, any of my loved ones, if they're afraid to fly, don't come visit me on Survivor.
right,
Like, send someone who isn't afraid to fly. Like, why is it her husband coming? I mean, I guess husband makes most sense, but still.
right. Yeah, I did not know that. I didn't
Yeah.
pick that up.
Yeah. It was interesting. Um, and I also got here too cheap to give them a hotel, eh? Because they made the loved ones stay at their camp.
Which I'm sure the loved ones just jumping for joy.
Yeah, like, how do you react to that? You're like, yeah, okay. I'm
Like,
like,
no
sure.
thanks.
Like, no, no, put me up in a nice hotel instead, please.
Like, I
Like,
saw her for an hour. I'm good.
yeah,
You know, she'll
no,
be
we're
home in
good.
20 days.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So what was weird too was I got here, the finale is not at 5, which I thought was weird because like I said, I have notes that I don't remember why I wrote because I put y'all are monsters, but I don't know why I put y'all are monsters or don't get it wrong. And I'm like, well, why would I write don't get it wrong? Oh, wait, no, wait, no, no, wait. I remember why I put don't get it wrong. Because they were doing the immunity challenge and Todd was in the lead where they had to go answer a question and take a key and he got the key wrong and had to go back and that led PG to winning immunity.
Yeah.
That was like the only immunity Todd came close to winning.
Which is even more remarkable that he ended up winning the game.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah. Yeah. No, he navigated well.
Yeah, he really did. And so yeah, so so finale of Final Five, I thought that was weird because Eric goes home and it's not the finale, which I thought was kind of odd, but I mean, Survivor was being weird and pedantic in this era, like this like Middle Ages sort of
Yeah.
thing.
They were they were kind of toying around with what, playing some how they wanted to move forward in the game here and there.
Yeah. But PG was so bitter because PG doesn't get picked for the reward, which is a which again I put weird rewards because the reward for this one was a trip to the Great Wall of China, where they got to sleep on the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
I mean, who's thinking like, hey, let's sleep on the Great Wall of China?
But that was when they were trying, they're in China and we're going to highlight the landmarks and we're going to showcase the
Yeah,
what they
send them on a
have.
private jet to these landmarks.
Right.
They took two or three private jets in this season.
Yeah. Yeah. Not helicopters with people hanging out the side.
And nearly falling out, waving to the people, which I thought was interesting. Um, this is where Beast Mode Amanda activates
Yeah,
because she
that's where
wins
this is where she
immunity.
goes on the run of immunities from here to the end.
Yeah, all two of them. All
Okay.
two of them in a reward. A reward for the grossest looking pizza, which we'll get to. But yeah, so Amanda Beast Modes, and then we finally reach the finale. There's four people left. Denise, Courtney, Todd, uh, Amanda.
Man.
Jeez, I almost forgot her name. Like I just said Beast Mode Amanda and I forgot her name. Oi, Eric, get together. Act like you've been here before. I do like that they had a recap just so I could remember some of the stuff that happened.
Yeah, I agree.
And then they put here, and this was interesting. They said Todd wasn't always smart, but he was strategic. Isn't being strategic mean you're smart?
They're synonymous with each other. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, like that was just weird to me. I was like, Todd's strategic. That's he's smart.
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it really
You can't
does.
say someone's strategic, but they're dumb.
Yeah, true. Fair enough. So then they have a reward challenge, which I thought was again weird, but I remember looking at the numbers and was thinking like, okay, they can't have an 8-person jury,
Right.
even though I guess they
This was
could have
back
just
in the
punted
day where it
Jamie.
was just 9 people on the jury.
Yeah. It was just 9 or 8 people on the jury, yeah. Or 7.
Seven or, yeah, it was always the odd number.
Yeah, it was always
So there couldn't be a tie. Well, I guess there could be because there's a final three, but they
yeah.
tried to work it where there was no tie.
They tried to work it to where there was no potential for a three-way tie.
Right.
Because then they really be screwed. And I got here. This pizza looks gross because they had like a giant pizza with like a bunch of like olives and peppers on it. It's like this is
It did.
disgusting. Like, can you not just give him a cheese pizza? Like, I wouldn't eat this.
No,
Like, I'd be
like,
like, no, I'm saving my strength for the Unity. I'm not trying in this
folks,
challenge.
let me just cheese.
Yeah, really. And and then he mentions it's like this is a serving for one. This giant pizza, which is the size of my head, brownies and beer and soft drinks is a serving for one. Really? I call bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, they're just manipulating the drama.
They clearly must be. Because, and I got here, it's not a hard bridge because they had their puzzle, which was the part of the bridge, and it was just putting all the gray pieces at the top.
Yeah, what
Which
wasn't
didn't seem
very
like,
challenging.
no, it didn't look very challenging. Um, and then got, you'll eat in 2 days chill because they gave him an option, like, Amanda an option to pick two people, pick one person, or nobody eats. And everyone's like, oh, please pick me, please, please. But it's like, your guys are going to eat in 2 days. Chill.
Yeah. I mean, but okay, remember, it's been 35, 36 days. They've been out there, no food, you know. But I get it. You're close to the end. You know, it shouldn't be something that you need that badly.
Yeah, for sure. And then so we go into day 38, where they start the rites of passage and they have to honor the memories of the players who've fallen. They're not dead,
I know, but that was the thing. We're
right?
honoring the people who have fallen before you.
I still like the rites of passage
I do too.
personally.
I mean, I think it was sometimes it got strange if it was three people from one tribe and the first person is from the other tribe and they're like, "Hey, it's Eric."
Yeah.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because these guys were four people from the same tribe,
Right.
and I got here, y'all never met Chicken.
Right.
Like, and they're like saying like they're sending him off like, oh, Chicken, like Chicken was just the best. It's like y'all never met Chicken,
Yeah, you saw him for maybe an hour in 3 days.
right? Like for real. And we've reached the final page of notes. One of the things worth noting was the final immunity and those poor dishes. Because the immunity challenge was they had to like put dishes, and Amanda kind of hacks this a little bit where she puts one of the dishes the opposite, or starts putting dishes the opposite way, like the bowls,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
I
and
guess is kind of,
it kind of balanced a little bit better.
yeah. Um, and then I got here, yeah, I guess so. And then I got here. How do you make a deal? So the Todd drops, Courtney drops, and Denise is like, "Let's make a deal, Amanda. How do you make a deal here?" Like she's like, "Oh, we just don't vote each other."
Right.
No,
But then you still could potentially force a tie.
yeah,
And I think Denise knew she was the odd person out and was desperate in doing whatever she needed to do to survive. I applaud her for trying. Um, I applaud Amanda for not going with it.
yeah,
Um, but you got to try. You got to try.
yeah. Because Amanda beasts her way to the end, winning her third challenge in a row and her second immunity challenge win in a row, winning her way into this finale, where then we go back to camp and we get Denise laying on the guilt with this sob story. Like, you guys are all going to have stuff to go back to. Like, I'm going to go back to being a lunch lady. Like, alrighty. Like,
Yeah,
so
I
what?
mean, we're all going back to something.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you're telling me $1 million can't help my life? Like, because
Yeah,
I don't.
especially because Courtney, Todd, and Amanda were what, 22.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, in their 20s.
yeah, I mean, Courtney was the oldest at 26. You're talking to two 22-year-olds and a 26-year-old about $1 million.
Yeah, they could use it.
Yeah.
Cement their future kind of thing.
I mean,
Um,
Todd was a gay Mormon flight attendant. You don't think he could take $1 million?
yeah. He could have played the gay card there and been like, so you're saying because I'm gay, I can't can't use $1 million because I don't conform. I'm not supporting a family because I'm gay. Like he could have played that card.
You very
He
well could
wouldn't
have.
have, but probably wouldn't have. But because he knew he was safe anyways, because he had
Right.
Courtney and he kind of had him. He had Amanda, and then so Denise gets voted off, and this was a great final three. I will say.
It was. All of them. I mean, I guess we don't see more of Todd, but Amanda and Courtney have become just Survivor franchise staples.
Yeah,
Amanda would come back two more times. Um, Courtney has a cult following of
yeah,
people,
yeah.
yeah,
She
very
came
good,
back. Todd should have came back for Winners at War. And I'll say
yeah,
till the cows come home.
very good, yeah, very good final three of people.
Yeah, and this is where I miss this because we get to the final tribal where they have to give an opening speech and the jury has to ask them a question.
Right.
I
Not just
miss
a,
the
don't
simpler
like the
times.
fireside chat.
Yeah, not the usual finale stuff, which is again, we've talked to death about on this podcast. Um, what was funny was James didn't want to be first because they go to ask, like he goes to like pick who's said, James, you're up. And James just gives like this eye roll, like he's like, great, I gotta go ask. Didn't seem like he wanted to be there anymore.
No, I think he had had enough at that point. Um, and then and obviously he wasn't a person who's a comfortable public speaker, getting up and
No.
talking. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, you're making me do this first.
Yeah.
Like, let me just fade into the middle.
Yeah.
Um, you know, maybe I won't even ask a question at all and
He
just
does
let me.
ask a question, but it was the best question because he asked Courtney like why like give us a memory of something that happened on this season that you liked. And then Jeff's like, why ask that? Why'd you ask that question? He's like, oh, because these guys are all bitter. This jury's all bitter and it's gonna be a rough night for them, and I wanted to give them something easy.
Yeah, I just think James didn't want to be there. So he
No.
just ran with it.
The more iconic moment of this one was when Jean Robert comes up to ask a question because he goes into his thing where he's like, I got a real dilemma because I don't like Courtney, but I told you two you wouldn't have my vote if you're there. So can it be any other three, any other
Yeah.
person? And it later leads to Todd shutting his ass up with his answer because Todd goes like, you became the biggest strategic threat to me. So I had to vote you off. And he just shuts up and sits down, and everyone's laughing, and it's just the best.
Yeah. It was, you know, John Robert came in trying to be like this a Sue Hawk, and Todd was too smart and just flipped it on him and poor Jean Robert.
Yeah, Todd was too smart for this. And Jamie's question was dumb because she then goes like into some and I watched this last night and I still don't remember the question. That's how dumb it was. Because she then starts picking on like air everyone's dirty laundry. And she starts with Courtney. She's like, well, Todd wears his dirty laundry on his sleeve. Like, I don't have to air his dirty laundry. It's like, so you don't want my vote? It's like, well, if you're not going to vote for me, don't vote for me then. It's like, okay,
Right.
moving on. And then
But
again,
that was still the era of the bitter juries.
really was.
You know, people were definitely very bitter and they had no problem um just throwing that out there. And if they didn't like somebody, it was and I think that's probably why they moved away from that format is that people
Yeah.
would go after who they didn't like. And I don't know if Probst didn't like that anymore or whatnot, but uh,
Yeah. I miss the days of this though.
oh, me
Um,
too. Go get them.
yeah. And if you want to talk bitter, Denise comes up next and is like, oh, hey, you guys can look me in the eye. That's good. At least you guys can look me in the eye after backstabbing me. It's like, shut up.
They didn't really
Sit
backstab,
down. Not really.
at
Like,
least not in my opinion.
no, they didn't.
Um, but she obviously saw it differently, and um, I didn't think they backstabbed her at all.
No.
My
And
my 2 cents.
this note probably might not hit, but do you remember um any one of the rewards or one of the Survivor finales where Jeff leaves with the votes on a skidoo or a jet ski?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good, because I got ride a skidoo. I wanted Jeff to ride a skidoo out of China.
That would have been something. That would have been a long way to go.
I think wasn't I believe that was like Marquesas or something.
I think it was, yeah,
It's
because that one was more water based.
yeah,
Um,
but I'm like, really? He did just ride like this was to whenever season 4 was, which was like younger Eric or to like 10-year-old Eric. Even 10-year-old Eric didn't fall for this, thinking he did that the whole way.
No, and then he would just show up at the CBS studios in Hollywood, California.
Yeah. They do a nice thing here where they like smash edit where they're like, I know you guys want me to read the votes now, and I'm going to because we're live in Hollywood.
Yeah,
And then they show them all dressed in fancy clothing, and then I got here too. It won't be a tie, we know now, because Jeff, after he reads the third vote for Todd, he's like, this game's either it's going to be a Courtney vote and it's a tie, or Todd and we have a winner. Amanda, you're not winning the season, which we knew because she was on Fans vs. Favorites.
right.
And I guess she kind of knew too, because why would they bring her back for Fans vs. Favorites if she was a winner?
Yep. Yep. She
Um,
knew she did.
but I'm thinking in my head, like, we know what you do in the tie, like with the tie, because we saw it in Ghost Protocol when it was Wendell and Dominic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did just call Ghost Island Ghost Protocol. I don't care.
Whatever. It's late. Well, it's late for me. Maybe not as much for you, but yeah, it's good.
No, it's fairly late. I've been up since 5 in the morning.
Okay.
It's late for me. It's late for me too. But ultimately, Todd wins 4-2-1, and I thought it was a great game by Todd.
Yeah, no, he's to me, he's a top tier winner. Um, he played a really nice game. Deserved to win. Was really in control most of the game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, definitely deserved the victory that he got.
Yeah, I like I said, I thought that's why one of the reasons why I picked this season to begin with, like of the potential that was it was going to be four, it was going to be Africa this season, heroes versus villains, and winners at war, and that I picked I lumped this one in with Africa, winners at war, and heroes versus villains. That should tell you something right there of how much I love this
Oh,
season.
it was a good season. It was definitely a good season. Um, it brought us some characters that we still love today.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of James. I like Amanda. Um, Courtney, I enjoy.
Todd
Fiji, I
was
like.
great. PG was
Ashley, may
awesome.
she rest in peace.
Actually, yeah.
So yeah, no, good cast of characters.
And then I was also going to bring this up too, because one of the things that again wouldn't be asked nowadays is at the reunion, Jeff Prost asked Courtney if she was anorexic. Like, is it an anorexic thing? Is it just an eating disorder? Like, what's
Oh
going
my
on here?
Lord, I didn't even catch that. Um,
That was a question verbatim that Prost asked at a reunion.
wow.
Like,
Now he won't even say, "Come on in, guys."
ex- right? Yeah,
But
exactly.
15 years ago, he was asking 25-year-old women if they were anorexic.
You like, good grief. And then also another point of the thing with the reunion was the controversy with Denise, where Denise said she lost her job, and then it was later revealed she didn't lose her job, and she
Right.
gave the money to charity apparently. But it's like, okay, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever. I didn't like Denise anyways.
Yeah, yeah, it was one of those things. Um, where yeah, she got a little bit out over her skis.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, just they think like again, this was people they were getting people who were coming from all walks of life, and she probably figured they will never find out.
yeah. And it's like,
And
yeah, now they found out.
now you're in the mainstream and they find out.
Yeah, and that stuff wouldn't fly nowadays either. Like,
No.
be canceled in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh no. Like, no, no.
But overall, this was, like I said, this was a great season. I'm gonna ask you a question here.
Okay.
So, okay, so back in the day, I did and I'm trying to find it, so just give me one sec. I did a poll on one of the Survivors, the fan pages, and it was ranking the seasons, 1 to 40, yeah, one to placement rewatch, and it was 1 to 42. So this was back when there was only the 42 seasons, and my plan was to go from bottom to top, but I only got through 5, 22, and 39 before I had to stop because I was like, this is gonna take me forever.
Yep.
So there is a podcast out there of me recapping 5, 22, and 39. So where do you think in the placement of 1 to 42 Survivor China ranked?
You want an exact number?
If you have it,
11.
close. It was in the top 10.
Okay,
It
so
was number 7.
the first number that was in my head was 8.
Oh
And
wow.
because I'm just trying to think of like how I
Hmm.
like them. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe people were turned off by Courtney and Amanda, who was there for so long. So yeah, I mean, I definitely felt it was a top third. So yeah, I can get on board with that.
The one that's the season that's actually sixth place was Micronesia Fan versus Favorites was the one right after.
What was number one?
Heroes versus Villains.
Okay.
I mean, and that's not a shock
No,
to
I
anyone.
I could get on board with that.
Like I said, once I thought things were going to be interesting once they got through 42 for like because I knew 42 was going to be either 522 or 39 because those
Going
ones were
back to look
interesting.
at the cast of heroes versus villains.
It was a good cast. It was both Sandra's wins were 1 and 2. Pearl Islands was 2
Yeah, this is where Colby came back after a long time away.
and did terrible.
Yeah, I mean he made it pretty far, but yeah. What a cast this was. So yeah, this was James's third time, Cerie's third time,
Yeah,
Stephanie's a lot of third times on here. A lot of
yeah,
times too. I guess yeah, okay. Not yeah, I could see that being okay. I can get on board with
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was definitely it was like I said, it was an interesting top 10 to say the least. And like I said, I find it funny because the Rob has a podcast, Rob Cesternino's podcast, did a ranking of like the first 40 seasons, and Pearl Islands was 3, Cagayan was 2, and Heroes versus Villains was 1. And this one was mine was reversed, where Pearl Islands was 2, Cagayan was 3, and Heroes versus Villains was 1. So
Island
basically similar.
3, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that was like I said, I thought that was interesting, to say the least. But yeah, so that was Survivor China. We did our rewatch of the season. We talked about it. Do you feel like we get everything?
I think so. Yeah, I think we hit the nail on the proverbial head there.
We added even some stuff from the reunion that I didn't think I was gonna add because I didn't take any notes of it. But I just remembered it verbatim because I watched it yesterday. So I'm like, okay, I remember he made that comment to Courtney.
That's crazy.
And this is the same guy who's like not saying come on in guys anymore.
Right.
Like
But now he's calling people anorexic.
right? Like 2007 Jeff was just a completely different person
He was just
than woke Jeff.
he was just rolling.
Like, and I'm surprised he hasn't been canceled now because of some of those. If people resurface some of those comments,
I love when people do that.
right? We don't here, but yeah.
No,
So that was Survivor China. Matt, this was fun.
sure was.
you guys will be hearing a lot more of me and Matt as we will be very soon covering Survivor 46 in 6 days. Be on the lookout for us to give you a little bit of a cast assessment.
Yes. I honestly, as we sit right now, I have not even looked at the new cast yet. Um, so when we do this, well, this is Thursday night right now. If we do this Sunday, you will have a raw and fresh assessment of the cast for me because I have not even looked at it once yet. I have no predisposed opinions, haven't been marinating on why I might like or dislike this person. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I kind of briefly looked at it, but I haven't like seen any videos. I've already done a couple drafts already because I do my head-to-head one with Kayla, and we have another one that we do with this other guy. That we have our draft already set up. We did it on super. Ironically, we did it on Super Bowl because I was sitting there half asleep because I didn't like the teams in it.
Disgusted that your Lions couldn't
Still too soon.
keep it
No,
together.
still too soon. Still too
Yeah,
soon. That's how podcasters have been fired for worse. I fired my
just let me
Traders
know when
podcast for that.
let me know when it's not too soon anymore.
It next season,
Got it.
like, after we win the Super Bowl next season,
Okay,
that's when it'll no longer be too soon because we'll have totally redeemed ourselves.
fair enough.
Uh, but anyways, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us to talk Survivor China. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your days. Where's that damn stop button?